back, everybody. Thank you for sharing your lunch hour with us. That was a fantastic preparation this morning for the conversation we're going to have now. And I was particularly struck by the notion of the role that audience engagement plays in information and misinformation. So we're going to be talking a little more about that. We have some of the best journalists in the field sitting here with us today. So we had a bit of a top-level conversation earlier. Now we're going to get straight into the details of what it takes to actually do the kind of reliable, accurate reporting on infectious diseases. What we're going to do is that we'll hear briefly from each of our speakers, and we have Mikaeleen with us on Skype, as you can see. So I'll introduce everybody. We have Karen Weintraub sitting right next to me. Acclaimed freelance journalist, health and science writer, has had a long career, works for USA Today, New York Times, Washington Post, Stats, has sort of covered a wide array of issues. Also teaches at Boston University and the Harvard Extension School. So thank you for being with us, Karen. We have Lena Sun from the Washington Post, who's a national reporter focusing on health. And we also have Helen Branswell, who used to be the health and infectious disease specialist at Canadian Press and has now been with Stat for how long? 3 years. 3 years. Wow, it's been a long time. And then we have Mikaeleen Doucleff with us from NPR. Hi, Mikaeleen.
Hi.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can
Fantastic.
hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. So Mikaeleen is a national reporter and does a lot of work both on the radio and online for Goats and Soda, which is NPR's global health and development news outlet. It's funded by the Gates Foundation, and part of what we're going to touch on today is also how we're paying for these kinds of news. So I've talked with each of our panelists to not just talk about what does it take to get the best information from sources and how to verify on social media, but also to share a little bit of how the sausage is made in journalism. So I'm going to hand it over to Karen to get us started.
Great, thanks. Hopefully you can hear me. I just wanted to start by giving a little bit of context about our readers. So this statistic, I think it's from Pew, has stuck with me for a long time, these couple of statistics. 46% of Americans believe that God created humans in their present form within the last 10,000 years. 26% can't correctly answer the question, does the sun revolve around the earth or the earth around the sun? And in 2014, only about half of Americans were confident that vaccines are safe and effective, which is about the same percentage as believe in ghosts. So our readership, listeners, whatever, really, they don't have any background in science. They don't understand why evidence matters. They haven't been trained. They're not stupid, they weren't taught. As you were saying in the last panel, it's not only media education, it's also science education. They don't understand basics. But they do care and they do go to the internet for science and health topics. Science is actually, health and science, 37% of the public goes to the internet for health and science topics, and only 23% for sports, so we top sports, and 14% for the arts, which is kind of sad. And then also just wanted to say a little bit about the industry that we work in, which has been changing dramatically for most of my career, actually. But just since 2006, revenue for professional news gathering is down by 1/3. So imagine an industry that's fallen by 1/3 in 10 years, and it was already headed south before then. Employment is off 23% in roughly the same time period. Newspaper employment over the same period, 45% decline. And we don't have a business model anymore. As they were referencing in the last panel, ads are gone, subscriptions are way down, and so we're depending on rich people and foundations and what little we can get from the internet. Also just wanted to say that I'm freelance, so maybe it's a little different for staff, but journalists day to day used to be you could have a lot of time to work on a story, and that's not true anymore. I just cataloged the number of stories I worked on in the first 2 weeks of September. It was particularly busy, but I counted 12 stories, everything from predicting death, how the science of predicting death, to a seal die-off in New England, to coral epigenetics, to several anti-aging stories, nutritional supplement story, sleeping in the nude, that was a fun one, the ketogenic diet. So I'm all over the place covering all sorts of topics. Public health is something I care about passionately, but I don't write about it that often because people don't pay me to write about it very often. The tendency is to care about it only when it affects Americans, primarily on American soil. So I'm in a climate where I would love to write more about this, but struggle to do that. So that's the background I wanted to give.
Thank you so much, Karen.